Hello, my name is Bill Johnson, and I'm dressed like this because I live in Portland, Oregon, and when we get an inch of snow, people immediately decide they need to get out the small rodent trap lines and decide which type of tree bark they want to eat because they're going to be snowed in for 6 months and unable to get to a store. So hopefully that 1 inch of snow will be gone in a couple hours, but until then I need to do my part and look like I'm prepared for anything. So what I want to talk about on this tape today is how you write a story in a way that is organic. And by organic, I mean that from the beginning of a story, everything follows, everything's connected. And compared to, if you're being told your story is episodic, what that means is that you can take out any particular character or event and it's not going to change the course or the outcome of the story. In an organic story, everything has its purpose, everything has its place, everything has its reason for being there. And so to demonstrate this, I'm going to read the opening prologue from Prince of Tides. Now, the opening sentence of Prince of Tides is, "My wound is geography." Now, that immediately begins to suggest the story's promise, because if you have a wounded character, that suggests a character that seeks healing. So in those 4 words, he has begun to suggest the story's promise. The next line is, "It is also my anchorage, my port of call." And this is crucial because if that which wounds you in life is that which comforts you, it's very difficult to leave something like that behind. So in 2 sentences, he conveys both the promise of the story and what I call narrative tension. And narrative tension in a story is the tension a character feels about resolving some issue. So because in this situation, this environment is both what comforts a character and wounds them, they begin the story in a state of narrative tension. And if your story does not begin with a main character in a state of narrative tension, it is not a novel. It is simply an account of someone doing something. So, to continue with Prince of Tides, I grew up slowly beside the tides and marshes of Colleton. My arms were tawny and strong from working long days on the shrimp boat in the blazing South Carolina heat. Because I was a Wingo, I worked as soon as I could walk. I could pick a blue crab clean by the time I was 5. I had killed my first deer by the age of 7, and at 9 was regularly putting meat on my family's table. I was born and raised on a Carolina sea island, and I carried the sunshine of the low country inked in dark gold on my back and shoulders. As a boy, I was happy above the channels, navigating a small boat between the sandbars with their quiet nation of oysters exposed on the brown flats at the low water mark. I knew every shrimper by name, and they knew me and sounded their horns when they passed me fishing in the river. Now, this is crucial, that what makes this descriptive passage work is it begins to answer the question, how is his wound geography? What makes it his anchorage? So everything in that description, in that paragraph, connects to what made this place an anchorage for him, what made it a wonderful, special place. So it's not just saying this is where I grew up. It's in the context of this is what made where I grew up a special place for me. So even an environment can have what I call dramatic truth. So a dramatic truth for a character, in this case Tom Wingo, it is that he's wounded and seeks healing. So in this story, even this environment rings true because the environment speaks to a truth that's about what the story is about. And what happens if you simply describe things without giving a context for what the description means? It's just a collection of details, and it puts the reader in the position of having to memorize those details until at some point there's a context for what they mean. In a badly written manuscript, by the time you get to the 3rd page, it's real hard work to keep track of all those meaningless details. Now, they may be wonderfully written, but if they don't have an underlying context, it's just work to memorize them. By the time you get to page 5, you're as a reader, you're pretty much done. I mean, unless you're being paid to read a manuscript, which agents or not, and that's why they quit reading after page 5. Continuing, third chapter. When I was 10, I killed a bald eagle for pleasure, for the singularity of the act, despite the divine exhilarating beauty of its solitary flight over schools of whiting. It was the only thing I had ever killed that I had never seen before. After my father beat me for breaking the law and for killing the last eagle in Colleton County, he made me build a fire, dress the bird, and eat its flesh as tears rolled down my face. Then he turned me into Sheriff Benson, who locked me in a cell for over an hour. My father took the feathers and made a crude Indian headdress for me to wear to school. He believed in the expiation of sin. I wore the headdress for weeks until it began to disintegrate feather by feather. Those feathers trailed me in the hallways of the school as though I were a molting, discredited angel. Crucial point in terms of how descriptive language can speak to what a story's about. When he says those feathers trailed me in the hallways of the school as though I were a molting, discredited angel, what he's doing is evoking the experience of the character. What he's doing is evoking the experience of the character and not merely describing it. He's not just saying, I walked down the hallway with this headdress until it rotted off my head. He's evoking what it felt like for him to experience this. Now, the other thing about this paragraph, what it does is it begins to convey what wounded this character. So do you see how that's organic? First paragraph, what it makes this place a sanctuary. Second paragraph, third paragraph, what makes this place his wound. So each of those paragraphs with this descriptive language has a very specific purpose of this story. It continues, never kill anything that's rare, my father had said. I'm lucky I didn't kill an elephant, I replied. You'd have had a mighty square meal if you had, he answered. What this suggests is, yes, the father's brutal, but the father has a moral code, which is very important in this story because the next character we're going to meet appears to have a moral code that the father lacks, but does not really. So the narrator continues, my father did not permit crimes against the land. Though I have hunted again, all eagles are safe from me. So this is also softening the father, that he's not just a brutal guy. I mean, he is, but he also has other qualities.